Last time in Bug Fables, the Everlasting Sapling Chompy only challenge. Can you beat Bug Fables, the Everlasting Sapling with only Chompy for every battle? No. So she came up short in trying to beat the game and the final boss. Well, as unfortunate as that may be, there are still 5 bounties and an array of super bosses and mini bosses that we can try that are optional. In this video, we're going to find out just how many of those bosses that Chompy can take down all by herself, maybe with a little bit of help from Team Snake Mouth, but nothing that's directly attacking, and see if there's just a little bit of Samus in this little Chomper after all. Ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime! Let us not waste your time. Let's attempt the bounties of this game, starting with Seedling King. There is some mild luck to this fight, and it also can be very tedious, because the only way you're going to deal damage to Seedling King is if you attack it directly, which is difficult when the Seedling King constantly is spawning new seedlings to get in your way. You can't do anything about the seedling that spawns in the back, so just hope that there's nothing that's too hard to guard. However, the seedling that spawns in the front, you do at least want to see an underling at least one time. With a poison build equipped to Kabu, you can taunt, attack it directly with Chompy, and then have him get poisoned. Eternal Venom, Reverse Toxin, and Poison Defender all play a very strong role in keeping Kabu alive and making it a lot easier to survive this fight. As a matter of fact, invest as much in defense as you possibly can for Kabu, just to make sure you don't have to worry about taking damage. However, there are also 2 types of seedlings you do not want to see in the front, Acornlings and Cactlings. Both of these enemies naturally only have 2 defense, but because they always have an attack and defense up boost, it actually gives them 3 defense, which is just enough to match how much damage Chompy can dish out. For this reason, you need to have Leaf alive to use Break so that they can actually be vulnerable. Having Kabu taunt with Spiky Bod and some Super Block Plus medals equipped also would not be a bad idea to lower the HP as fast as possible too. And from there, you just keep blocking with precision and trying to keep chipping away at the defenses of the Seedling King, just waiting for it to try attacking Kabu directly with its hard seeds, and then getting your opportunity to strike it hard in the center. Once his HP falls below half, he'll start attacking directly sometimes, and that makes the fight pass a lot faster too. With how rarely Chompy can even deal damage to him, it really is nice to have Spiky Bob make this go a lot faster. The fight is tedious, but it is absolutely possible. It's also nice to mention though that every single bounty in this game can inflict poison one way or another. Seedling King through underlings, Devourer has most of his attacks be poisonous, Tidal Worm can summon a jumping spider which also has a poison attack, False Monarch has poisonous mothflies, and Peacock Spider, for similar reasons to the jumping spider that Tidal Worm can also summon poison for you too. So survivability is not really a problem. What is a problem, however, are fights where we cannot deal enough damage to get past how much they can heal against us. We had a problem about this with General Ultimax when we were in the Wasp Kingdom Hive, but the Bandit Sin and PC take this to a whole new level. PC can summon rock walls which block Chompy's only attack, and she can heal Sin with crunchy leaves, cancelling out the little damage we can do to him. In theory, it may be possible to win this fight if you get ridiculously lucky, or let's even say that you can even get past the point where they start to run away. But me, I'm not seeing it, because you're not doing damage nearly fast enough to offset how much they heal off of you. It wouldn't be so bad if PC could not summon rock walls and heal Sin at the same freaking turn. That is just unfair. For now, we're calling this fight improbable. I'm not going to say impossible because in theory it can be done, but I do not see it being realistic to try. I mean, by all means, if you want to try this for yourself, then go ahead and do it. And if you pull it off, then tell me in the comments down below. I would love to see this for myself, but these 2 live to see another day. For now, let's check out the Devourer. Now, this is a bounty that I am really not sure is possible to do. Because let's look at this way. Chompy can only attack the target that's in front. She can't choose who to target, and when the Devourer summons a second fly trap, which will spawn in front of him, then you cannot do anything to him directly. The moment you knock out the fly trap, it will be resummoned immediately that exact same freaking turn. I feel like I should also mention this, you cannot freeze the fly traps that Devourer summons. In fact, Devourer as a whole is completely immune to being frozen, so that's not going to work for you either. So this is a fight that I can only see as being impossible. Even if we were poisoned by the many attacks Devourer has to poison us, and we managed to trigger Poison Touch on the fly trap, It only takes 1 point of damage because its health is so low, but it's not quite low enough, whereas we can knock it out that same turn. If it had just 1 less HP, we could take it out, but it having 8 is just 1 too high for us. Which is honestly a crying shame, because this means that not every bounty can be beaten. But we can at least see how many of them can be beaten, so let's keep going. Next will be Tidal Worm. The circumstances surrounding this fight could not make it any more simple. Play solid, guard well, and if you can get a diving spider to spawn, get poisoned by it, and then just win through attrition. After getting poisoned though, I recommend fighting Water Striders because they can't make themselves invisible, and when they rise up because they don't want to get hit by you, that means Tidal Worm is a bigger target. Meanwhile, diving spiders can make themselves invincible for a turn or two, and you don't want to have to worry about turns where you just can't do anything. This Bounty was a pushover, and Chompy takes no prisoners. Now let us forget this waterlogged worm and head to the Forsaken Lands to handle the False Monarch. In this fight, playing defensive is actually a method of playing offensively too, because when the False Monarch summons more Mophies to come out and heal it later, you want them to have as little health as possible. They only have 4 HP, so when they attack Cobble directly, make certain you Super Block, because that will drop their HP to 1, and they're airborne enemies also, so Chompy cannot reach them. Which is good because it means that they don't slow Chompy down in her attacks, but it could also be very bad if you knock out the False Monarch when there are still Mophies that are standing. Just be careful to give them a chance to return the False Monarch, and you'll be fine. Otherwise, you may find yourself soft-locked. It didn't happen to me, but I don't want it to happen to you. Anyhow, those were some of the easier bounties we were able to beat. Let's look over Peacock Spider.
Rabbit!
This fight freaking sucked, man. Like, I hate this fight for this challenge. For this fight, you have to contend with the fact that Peacock Spider will always summon an ally, and a Diving Spider, which will always act as a meat shield for the freaking thing. It can attack you directly, but it rarely ever will. And as you're likely already accustomed to knowing by now, you cannot fall an opponent through indirect damage. You have to attack them directly for them to get knocked out. I was only able to see one possible solution to this dilemma, and that's by triggering Frostbite while having the Peacock Spider attack directly the character that's frozen, having it be frozen, and then finishing it off while it's vulnerable. Because while the Peacock Spider is frozen, it can't summon help, and that gives you your one and only chance to knock it out. But it's not as simple as A, get frozen, B, let it attack you, and then C, finish it off. There's a lot of RNG involved in this fight that makes it absolute agony to do. First and foremost, the Peacock Spider has a lot of freaking HP. The only way you're going to be able to deal damage after the first turn to it is by having Kabu taunting, or just having there be no other bugs that are still standing up and being able to fight, and having Peacock Spider attack him directly, which again is rare to happen. And then just having your super blocks be on point and dishing out 9 damage across 3 hits every time he does attack you. If you want to get fancy, bust out your poison build, and then rely on the Diving Spider poisoning you with his poison shot. Afterwards, have Poison Touch equipped as well, he'll get poisoned and the damage builds up a lot faster. But again, that's not the only problem you have to worry about. You also have to worry about just how rare it is for the Peacock Spider to attack you. It more often than not is going to buff the Diving Spider it summons, whether it be through doubling how many times it can attack, charging it, increasing its defense, increasing its attack stat, and sometimes healing it. As such, the one chance you have to freeze it, it may not even attack you, so you may not even have a chance to knock it out. But it gets even worse. Oh man, does it get even worse. Imagine then, what if the Diving Spider were to attack the character that was frozen, breaking them out of their icy prison, and then completely killing your chances of actually getting the freaking Peacock Spider frozen? Because that happens a lot, and considering your inventory space is limited, then that doesn't necessarily feel great. Let's just leave it at that. It's also worth saying that there is a way of getting the Peacock Spider to attack its own ally. If you can cast a status on the Diving Spider that prevents it from being able to do anything like freeze or paralysis, the Peacock Spider will do an attack that does 1 damage to the Diving Spider to knock it out of it. However, this attack will never be lethal, which I think is really dumb, how it can drop the thing's HP to 1 point left, and it'll get hit for 1 point of damage by a direct attack, mind you, but it won't kill it. So yeah, there goes the one and only time any ribbon that's not the pretty ribbon can actually be useful for something here. I was kind of disappointed thinking about it. I was really hoping that there would at least be something I could have like used over the pretty ribbon, but no. The entire challenge, this has been the only ribbon that's even worth considering because of how many enemies and bosses in this game have defense. Like the difference between 2 damage and 3 damage isn't really that big, but the difference between 1 and 2 is massive by comparison. I've actually had it happen that the diving spider's poison counter went from 99 to infinity. It turns out that the number cannot display more than 99, so there is no such thing as 100. You can only imagine just how long this fight can really take if that can actually happen. I tried this fight a few times, but I was getting really freaking annoyed by this fight because of just how much luck was involved, and I just could not win. I don't want to call this fight impossible, but for now, let's call it improbable, at least until later on we come back to it, and we may be able to win. For now, let's tackle Zamoth. As you are no doubt aware, Zamoth can poison you. Enough said. Honestly, this fight is easier than Tidal Worm because of its Blight Magic being able to poison you. And being that its first attack basically always will poison you because it lets you use its projectile, just having Kabu taunt and taking the poison tends to be all you really need to happen. From there you block and then just win through attrition. As for any other optional bosses, there is also Cali and Kabu, but this is a fight that is absolutely, beyond the shadow of a doubt, completely impossible for Chompy to pull off all by herself. In the case of Sen and PC, the problem was that it was improbable to deal enough damage to even be able to drop Sen down to a point where they both try to run away. But with Calvi and Kabu, you cannot target Callie directly at all. She will always be behind Kabu, and not only can she heal Kabu, but she will always revive Kabu every time he gets knocked out. This gives you absolutely no chance to attack her directly, and not only that, but she will never attack either, so there's no chance of triggering Frostbite. Really, the most you can do in this fight is force Kabu to be asleep for a few turns because he has 0 sleep resistance, but that really doesn't carry you very far here at all. All you would get for winning is Heavy Throw, which is a method that only V can really use to attack, so you don't really lose out on anything. But yeah, you're never going to win this fight. After Zamoth, there really aren't that many other bosses to even try. We can try Team Maki and Team Slacker, but considering the trouble we have with Sen and PC because of their ability to heal each other, I don't think I want to put up with that quite yet, because Yin is going to be really freaking annoying to deal with how often she'll be healing Maki. And Team Slacker is freaking Team Slacker. I think you can understand why I don't really feel quite up to talking about them yet. So back to Peacock Spider. I decided to come back to this fight with a bunch of honey ice cream in my inventory now, but not before taking on a trouble where the reward is a leaf cloak. I need Kabu's Frostbite to actually work where I need it to, but a big part of that is making sure that the diving spider that tries to attack before the Peacock Spider can do anything does not target Kabu, so that Frostbite has the chance of triggering on the Peacock Spider and that we can actually win the fight. This is also a time where V's ability to heal with her secret stash is extremely useful, because I need her to keep both Leaf and herself alive long enough to take the attacks from the diving spider so that the Peacock Spider can only have one target, and that's Kabu when he's frozen. If I can get the Peacock Spider to attack Kabu while he's frozen and trigger Frostbite, the only hurdle left is knocking out the diving spider as long as it does not have a shield. Now, I was fortunate enough to not have to worry about this, but in theory, the diving spider can summon a shield for itself and make it so that you cannot deal damage to it, and ergo, you're never going to have your path be cleared for the Peacock Spider either. Fortunately though, he doesn't get in my way, and I'm able to knock the Peacock Spider out, finally ending this long drawn out battle. And time to think of it, I couldn't battle Team Slacker anyway because that would require beating all the bounties first. And that still includes the Devourer. You have to hear from both past and present me as far as why this fight sucks so much. For now, just know that Devourer, when you have 2 or more bugs alive still, like let's see if Kabu and Leaf still standing, if Devourer wills it, he can slam into the ground and trap one of Team Snakemouth in its pitcher mouth. And if it does that and knocks out the rest of the bugs that are still standing, you lose, even if you still have plenty of health on the one bug that you need to survive. coupling that with a fight where you have no choice but just to wait it out, relying purely on status mirror, as well as maybe poison touch to be able to poison Devour, and chip its HP down slowly but surely, just waiting for it to fall to 1 HP, and then trying to open up your moment so that Chompy can go in for the kill, is nothing short of freaking miserable. And that's how it can go wrong. But what do you have to do to make this go right? Allow me to introduce you to my past self, and just hear what I have to say as far as how you have to win this fight. And let me just tell you, it's a really freaking convoluted way you have to do this to win, and you're gonna probably have your jaw drop from hearing it. Allow me to explain, Cicero. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make it so that I revive V and Leaf, and then the turn I do that, I use Leaf to freeze V. I have Chompy attack the Fly Trap in the front that's about to get knocked out. I need the Devour to use an attack that doesn't hit everybody, so basically only the one that shoots like single drops of poison. Ideally at either Kabu or Leaf. And then I need the Fly Trap that's in the front when it spawns to hit V while she's frozen, and she has Favor when equipped. So with that equipped, she's going to be able to take like 5 damage, which is going to be redirected so she will take nothing. And she's going to hit the Fly Trap for 5 damage instead, putting it at 3 damage and has no defense. Chompy will knock it out in 1 more hit, and then the Fly Trap won't spawn again on the next turn, so the Devour can be knocked out. I know I said a lot of stuff in that one sentence, but that's what I'm trying to do. I'm sorry I'm so verbose. This is what this freaking requires. No, I can't freeze it. This boss is immune to being frozen. Well, I need this to happen at least. Case in point, it just did. Yep, we're gonna kill it now. Heck yeah, we are. Chompy is the Samus of Butt Fables. Even now, I still cannot believe that I just did that. Simply, absolutely incredible. The fact that we were able to take a little baby Mother Chomper this far, even though she could not beat the Everlasting King. Let's not forget, however, we still have Team Slacker, Team Mackie, and maybe another something after those two are finished with. So keep watching the video. We're not quite done with Frostbite yet, and it also hurts my viewer engagement if you leave now. Can we win? Can we beat them? Probably not, but let's give it a go and see how far we do, okay? Those of you who are still watching this video, however, I just want to say thank you for watching this video as far as you have. It's incredible to see just what Frostbite is capable of. A huge shout out to Emil for introducing me to this medal and just seeing how good it would really be. So let's start with Team Slacker. Or at least I would like to start with Team Slacker, but I completely forgot about Carmina. But there's a reason for that. The amount of RNG in this fight is simply subhuman. It's ridiculous. However, absolutely none of it really impacts how much damage you do to Carmina, except for maybe when she puts herself to sleep, because that cancels out the damage you do for 2 turns. I mean, it would be good for me if I remembered to give Leaf Break, but I forgot all about that medal here, because I did not think that Carmina would have defense. And yeah, it really is just that simple, which is kind of a relief to have, to be honest. Just keep attacking until she goes down, and it's just like that. She can poison you either through the roulette or through her own cards, which, funny enough, she put me to sleep, and the first card she threw a combo was poisonous, so I had no choice but to get poisoned that turn. It was scary, and there were definitely some points where I felt like I was going to get knocked out in this fight, but it never really did happen. And this fight, just like many others, is indeed possible. I can sum up all the feelings I had in a single word for this fight. Intimidated. Stratos has 3 defense and a whopping 100 HP, so you have to either use Leaf Break skill to reduce its defense so that Chompy can actually do damage, or use Kabu's Deep Taunt, which reduces his defense by 1 while also increasing his attack power by 1. Both have objective advantages and disadvantages, but I opted for Deep Taunt. Now this fight was a slog up until a certain point, which really sped it up, and even then, we were at the mercy of Delilah always using items to heal herself and Stratos, which gets really annoying when you consider how much defense and HP they both have. This is a time where Spiky Bot and Super Block Plus, as well as Eternal Venom and Poison Touch, become absolutely essential to make this fight have a shorter runtime than the freaking B-movie. Something that will become crystal clear when we go over Team Maki's fights. Both the Lila's darts as well as her bazooka are able to poison Kabu as long as you get hit by the right item. From there, just play very defensively. Super block any and all the direct attacks as much and as often as you possibly can to speed up the damage you're dealing to them. And try to not lose hope if either of the two start using Queen Zinners or Clear Waters. Or Magic Seeds. Yeah, that can happen, and it does make this fight take a lot freaking longer than I would like to. But surprisingly enough, this is not even the worst fight to do. The fight is tedious, don't get me wrong on that. It is a very tedious fight to do. But when you get down to it, this fight doesn't really last that long. It's still shorter than most bounties if that's going to mean anything to you. In fact, in truth, Team Maki takes a lot freaking longer on average. If only because you can't rely on poison damage for Maki, and he has 3 defense and 85 HP, which is not as much as Stratos, but considering the fact that poison damage will not work on him, and the most you can really do to him is just based on the damage he does to you with his sword. Not to mention that Kina will sometimes use her Might Burgers to heal Maki for 6 HP, as well as giving him HP regeneration, which ultimately does not really matter because Kina will always just cure the status, which also removes the HP restoration, which is really kind of funny if I'll be honest. The 2 girls that Maki has in his corner make his longevity absolutely ridiculous. This is one of those times where I really wish that statuses could kill you, because Kina was hanging on at 1 HP for a very long time, but we could not knock her out because Maki had to fall first before Kina could be targeted. Of course, it would also help if Taun actually made it so that Yin could not heal Maki every single turn if she wanted to, but I guess beggars can't be choosers. This fight was nothing more but a freaking slog. I have nothing else to really say about it. Like, it's not even very interesting. It's literally just keep chipping away at Maki's 3 defense, 85 HP, and immunity to poison until he finally goes down, as long as the game doesn't keep his HP at a value so freaking high, and continue to heal him to the point where you just cannot break through. However, unlike Sen NPC, it doesn't feel like Kina will make this impossible for you. Like, she will heal Maki, but she won't heal him fast enough, whereas you can't beat him. You're gonna make progress, but you're gonna make very slow progress. After all, she wants to fight you too, and as much as I respect her, and honestly, let's just get this out of the way, I actually find Kina to be pretty hot. May Venus bless her, because she's gonna torture me, but she's not gonna torture me to an extent where it's freaking excessive. And of course, beating both Maki as well as Kina is all you need to do. You don't have to knock out Yin, so at least that makes the fight a little bit shorter than it otherwise would be, where we would just be stuck chipping away at her until she finally were to go down. I must say now though, with all that said and done, I am fascinated. Every bounty, most mini-bosses, and almost every boss where you actually have access to Chompy can be beaten with only her and having Team Saintmouth only use support moves. That is legitimately incredible to me. Heck, it may even be possible for Spooner to be possible. If you were playing a mystery and you had managed to get the medal for Break, you probably would actually be able to beat him. But still, Venus Guardian, B33, Kelly and Kabu, and the Everlasting King are all going to be impossible for Chompy to take down all by herself. That just leaves one more boss to look at, Sen NPC, the fight that earlier in this video we called improbable. So how about this? Before we end this video, let's take one long good look at this fight and see if we can actually win this fight and claim it to be possible after all. So let's recap. There are 2 things that are getting in the way of us being able to finish this fight and a win for us. PC healing Sen faster than we can actually hurt him because she can heal for 4 HP and summoning rock walls which take 2 bites for us to knock them out, while she is also able to heal Sen faster than we can hurt him. Crunchy leaves heal 4 HP. Chompy can only do 3 damage. There's a very clear problem here. I hate to say it, but it looks like once again we have to scream for Ice Cream to help us out here. We once again need the help of Frostbite. But Frostbite on its own is not going to be enough for us to be able to muscle through how much damage we are not going to be able to do to Sen every time PC feels like making it so that we can't hurt him. We need more damage, and we need it fast. So we have to play in a very tricky way with Frostbite for this to actually be able to work. prior to this fight, I had as much defense invested on Kabu as possible, and that included having Iron Seeds equipped to him. Now, however, we don't want Iron Seeds. That's right, I'm going to use Frostbite's property of countering damage in full to the attacker to its fullest extent. I'm talking Power Exchange, I'm talking Favorite One, I'm talking Hard Hits, I'm talking Deep Taunt, I'm talking basically any metal that can increase how much damage we take for any action we take, or just anything that's passive. We need Sen to hit us hard and fast. When he throws his stick as a boomerang, it does not do any recoil damage because it's an indirect move. But when he approaches to swing it like a sword or a club, that does count as a direct attack, and that can get him frozen. Not only that, we can rebound a whopping 9 damage, or maybe as much as 10, if we had as many medals as we possibly could, to be able to make the damage we take just be that freaking high. A couple of rebounded Frostbites, as well as in addition with Chompy's attacks, while Sen is frozen mind you, actually will be enough to trigger the phase where they run away and we have to chase them down for the real fight. So this strategy is already proven to be able to actually work. Skipping ahead to when we fight them in front of the Explorers Association, what we need to have happen is akin to what we had to do for Devourer, in which we had to have Sen be exposed while the rock wall is destroyed, and then just hope that PC does not summon another rock wall, making it impossible to target Sen again or healing him again so that Chompy cannot finish him off the next time she attacks. Except unlike Devourer, there is always going to be an element of RNG at risk here. If PC either makes another rock wall blocking Chompy's path or heals Sen again with her crunchy leaves, we cannot finish Sen off this turn. Whereas with Devourer, we can guarantee the fly trap being down, and it's just a matter of just hoping that Devourer does not hit whoever is frostbitten, so that we don't have to worry about, say, losing out on potentially our one and only chance to actually do damage and win. I brought a lot of honey ice creams into this fight, I would say around 15. When I was finally able to get Sen and PC to cooperate, I was down to like 4. RNG was a female dog this time around. I mean that in the most sincere way possible. But when my moment finally came, you can bet your bippy I took advantage. And from here, all PC could do was Lady Inevitable. Like, either she summoned a rock wall, which just made it so that I could not deal damage to her until I got another chance to do it again. Like, either she would summon a rock wall, PC would, and I'd have to break it again, just to have another chance of her probably summoning another one. And if she didn't, well, I'm actually able to deal damage, and the fight will proceed slowly but surely. We had Deep Taunt, so we were able to do a little bit more damage to PC, being 2 instead of just 1 point, but still, you could tell that she did not want to let this go. She would just keep summoning rock walls, even though it was inevitable that I was gonna win. Because at this point, I was checked out. I went ahead and equipped both HP cores to leave as well as, say, Life Cast to him, and I had TP cores equipped as well. So I was basically able to just infinitely reuse my Bubble Shield Light and Deep Taunt, and the fight was just eventually going to be my victory. If you already watched part 1 of this challenge, you already know this is an impossible challenge to do with only Chompy because the Everlasting King is an airborne boss. However, as far as the question of how many optional bosses can you beat, even though the final boss of this game cannot be beaten, it turns out almost all of them. Of course, a few airborne bosses would be out of her reach, and that would mean that there is absolutely no way that Chompy can do it. But I think it's incredible to think about this. There were so many bosses that Chompy was able to beat, even with that huge weakness that she has. Though I think this also speaks a lot more to the power of Frostbite than it does to Chompy's own abilities. And repeat after me, we scream for ice cream! Seriously, in the future, I would love for this to just become some kind of really big meme about how I use the power of ice cream to be some of the most tough bosses in the game. It just sounds so freaking funny to think about. But yeah, my next challenge will be similar to my Leaf-only challenge to this game. It's going to be a Kabu-only run through Bug Fables the Everlasting Sapling. Kabu has a lot of similar weaknesses to Chompy, except he does have a couple of attacks that can hit enemies in the air. And of course, he can use items, so his biggest weakness about not being able to reach enemies that are airborne isn't really that big of a problem. But it does take a while to actually get to that point where he can take care of them. Now, I would love for you to see the video when it comes out, but if you want to see the video, don't bother subscribing, that does absolutely nothing. Just like the video, and how about you watch more of my videos too? The algorithm will think you like my videos and it'll recommend them more to you. And allow me to help you with that. How about you watch my 3-part Coops Only challenge through Paper Mario with the 1,000-Year Door? I'm pretty sure you'll love it. If you're not interested in Paper Mario, how about my Bug Fables challenge of Leaf Only? It's again a 3-video long project, but again I think you'll love it all the same. And with that, this is Phantom A, and thank you for watching this challenge. Have yourselves a dang good day.